Blindside breakup, cheating involved, 9 months later having difficulty putting her out of my mind. History. Partner of 2+ years, lived together, abruptly broke things off in late January of this year. She has 2 daughters, 9 and 12, I was very close with, who repeatedly told me I was a better father than their bio dad ever was. Things had gotten rocky as she was stressed with her job, personal health issues, and her parents' welfare. During this time, I lost my job in November 22. I secured a new position in fairly short order, but this perceivably dialed up her stress. I asked her several times if she was okay or if there was anything she needed to talk about, and got the "I'm just tired" or "it's not a good time." She started going to bed earlier and earlier. My stress levels were shooting up, as I didn't know how to fix the situation without forcing the conversation and causing a blow-up. I know, I should have left at this point. Please see the end of this massive post. At Christmas, however, things seemed like they were going to be okay. I got a card with a lengthy note, saying how happy she and the kids were that I was in their lives, and that though things had been shaky for the previous couple months, she knew we would work it out in the long run. Early in January, I took a bad fall on some ice, and severely damaged the ligaments in my ankle, making it very difficult to get around. I only mention this because her reaction to this last event seemed to be like she blamed me and viewed me negatively for it. I left for work out of town for 10 days, and on my way home she texted me that we had to have a serious heart-to-heart. I knew at this point what was coming, and sure enough, the day after I returned she ended the relationship, just 3 weeks after writing out what seemed to be a heartfelt message about making it work. She was very tearful during the breakup, said she still loved me, but was unhappy with her own life and stressors. She told me multiple times, via text and in conversation, that with a little time and space, bear with me, I know this line is BS, we could try again, or at the very least remain friends. She also told my mother the same thing. I asked how much space/time she needed, she said she didn't know. I was really upset, but didn't fight the breakup, and told her that I wouldn't want her to live an unhappy life. I asked her if there was anything I could do to help with the transition. She answered that she didn't want to tell the kids, so we agreed that I would just say I was moving for work. It killed me to tell them this without losing it, but I didn't want to let them down as they had been by their bio dad, so I kept my shit together. I stayed at the house for a week until I found a 6-month rental, and during that time things were distant but amicable. We still texted a bit during the day and ate meals as a family. However, the instant I moved out of that house things went 100% radio silent and cold. I let it go for 3 months after moving out and didn't try to contact her in any way at all. During this time, I could remember what she said with crystal clarity, that she wasn't trying to completely end any further contact at all and just needed some breathing room. After 3 months I sent a brief text that said, I hope things are going well, would you like to catch up? I got, I'm not in a place to catch up right now. Okay. I let it go another month while I focus on getting my feet back under me. I saw a therapist on a regular basis, focused on my new job, leaned heavily on friends and family for support, and consumed an ungodly amount of content in the form of books, podcasts, and videos on relationships, attachment theory, communication, and anything else I could find. Went from 195 pounds to 170 in very short order. Then the bomb dropped. A friend let me know, as I suspected due to how things seemed to take a sudden turn while I was out of town, that she was at least emotionally involved, and very likely physically, with someone else very close to the end of or during our relationship, to the point that she'd declared her love for this guy within 2 months of our breakup. Even worse, he was married. This set me off, as it was completely counter to everything that she claimed during the breakup and shortly after. I would have much preferred the truth. She was no longer happy in the relationship, did not see us as compatible, and was interested in pursuing a different relationship. Painful. Sure. But it have made the recovery process much shorter. I decided to move back to my home province to where the majority of my social and professional foundation was, and in a moment of weakness sent a brief text that said, have a nice life. Good luck with your new partner. It was a shitty thing to send. I knew he'd already rejected her, and I felt pretty petty sending it, but it felt like a good idea at the time. She promptly called a mutual friend, freaking out about how I knew, what I knew, etc., and immediately removed our FB, LinkedIn, and IG connections. Fine, she just beat me to it. Issue today. So here's my dilemma. I know all of the above is a totally shit way to treat someone you supposedly still love, or even cared for at any point. There were a few serious red flags I ignored because they seemed pretty minor compared to the positives of the relationship at the time. She had very sudden and intense screaming outbursts, on me, her kids and her father. They were hugely disproportionate responses to the situation, and if I called her on it, particularly when she did it to her kids, she said I was attacking and hurting her. If I spoke calmly, I was being patronizing. If I got heated, I was the one having an outburst. I said early on I'd prefer to limit texting for light conversation, and save anything of substance for in-person. That went completely ignored, and much of the communication breakdown occurred because of misinterpretations of written text. Even the majority of the post-breakup conversation came via text, even though she knew I thought it was a completely bullshit medium for that kind of conversation. My friends said they liked her, but she could come off as obnoxious at times. They didn't really meet her that many times, so to get that impression over a short amount of time should have made me open my eyes. She was exceptionally bossy. Most things were her way or the highway, and attempts to suggest otherwise were often met with escalation. She was dropping love bombs pretty early into the relationship, definitely before I was at that point. I didn't realize what this usually means until fairly recently. Disagreements had to have a winner and loser, not a compromise where possible. After all the introspection I did following the breakup, I will absolutely not claim to be faultless. I was not very good at communicating, actively listening, and took things pretty personally during disagreements. That said, I've never had issues with self-confidence or self-esteem before this, and I'm not young and new to breakups. I'm 45, and have been in long-term relationships before. I've been broken up with and have done the breaking up. Now, even though I recognize red flags, I still have very strong moments of regret, anxiety, and loss on a daily basis, even though I know nothing good would have come out of this relationship in the longer run. Even 9 months later, I'm still struggling with the idea of going on dates again. And it's not because I'm sitting around waiting for a call or text from her. I know she's not an option. I brought a lot to the table. I did all the cooking and cleanup, amateur chef, took care of jobs on the acreage, did homework with the kids, actually helped the older one get her math grade from failing to advanced, helped with school and activity pickups, am in decent shape, was very well liked by her friends and family, and in addition to making future plans for us to aspire to, encouraged her to pursue her own hobbies and go out/away with her friends. Her father still calls/texts me a couple times a week to see how things are going. My problem is balancing my internal logic of knowing there are better relationships out there for me versus a very intense feeling I'm having an extremely difficult time suppressing. At least a few times a day, I wonder what/how she's doing, if she regrets how she handled things, if she's done any of the personal work she claimed she needed to do other than finding another dude to bang. And I'm getting really pissed with myself, because I know I shouldn't give a shit, that she should 100% be in my rearview mirror. Wondering about any of that stuff is totally irrelevant. I've gone to the gym more, moved the province over, got another new higher paying job back in a familiar industry, have a nice new place to live, still talk to a therapist periodically, have a lot of support from friends, but I can't get this little, but huge, bug in the back of my mind to STFU. I would greatly appreciate any unconventional advice on how to work past this, serious, humorous or otherwise. It feels like I've tried every conventional coping mechanism possible at this point. Comment. You're going through a shitty time, and it's gonna be shitty for a while, I'm afraid. This will seem counterintuitive, but force yourself to date. To get out there. Eventually, you'll start seeing that your feelings for your ex are going away. You'll see that other people light a spark inside you. Trust me. She's a toxic person. The best thing is to just be positive, focus on yourself for now and be open to meeting people. If things click, go with it. She was likely extreme highs and low lows kind of thing, and you miss the highs, like an addict. Definitely don't communicate with her, just make yourself happy and make a life she could only dream of being a part of. Her kids will likely never forget you, she won't either. She just hates being reminded she cheated on you and it's her guilt. You sending mean texts doesn't look good, just ignore her. You being nice is the best revenge. She knows she's the asshole but she'd never admit it. Her trying to pick fights to make you mean only helps her feel like less of the only asshole in the relationship. The best way to deal with this is to get out there and start dating again. It doesn't even have to be serious dating, but you need that circuit breaker to put a few people between you and her. As to everything you have said about her, there is a good chance that you have barely crossed her mind since the split. Remorse, sadness, regret, these things will not exist for her, so if you are wondering, you can be guaranteed that the thought of you has probably barely crossed her mind. For the future, it may serve you well to not date single mothers. Hey, just thought I'd chip in to say you're doing all the right things post-breakup, therapy, exercise, reaching out to friends, etc., but the reality is that healing takes time. No matter the red flags, this woman and her daughters who you had a good relationship with were a big part of your life, and the way things ended was difficult for you, to say the least. Be kind to yourself. I know I can't not give a shit about a person I used to love, it happens. Next story 2. I uncovered a guy I'm seeing, lied about his name a month in. I've known this guy for roughly over a month now. We met on Grindr, and at the time, we both had no intention of anything serious, just something casual, due to previous relationships. Exchanged snaps and we continued talking like usual for the next week or so and hanging out at his place. Then we actually went out and had a picnic, and went on a walk near the river. Things were going good and we both enjoyed each other's company and agreed to continue things, to see where it would lead. 2 weeks after we met, I stayed the night at his place as usual and we hung out. The morning after, I commented on how it was interesting that I didn't have his number, considering I had known him for 2 weeks and hung out quite a bit. He immediately shut down and didn't say anything, which was off to me. And I was like, I'm sure you had a bad experience before. Which he said yes. Still, that felt odd to me. First day he told me that he was not out and previously had been betrayed by someone he dated. He outed him out. He is still not out to this day, so I understand. He became distant after I brought up the phone number thing to him, and I didn't realize the seriousness of the comment. I talked to friends and had some internal monologue, and I wonder what happened. We continued to talk and I apologized for the comment. I didn't need to apologize. He did say that he doesn't think he'll ever get close to someone. More than a week had passed and I won't say exact details for anonymity. But we met up and talked at his place and he told me his thoughts and I did mine. He mentioned how he didn't think social media or having a phone number were important to getting to know someone. A couple days passed and I sent him a text, on how I appreciated the connection but did not possess the emotional bandwidth for anything more. I wanted to stay in touch and he was receptive, and kept it that. My birthday came up 3 days later and he sent me a whole paragraph on how awesome I was, etc. It was very sweet and I appreciated it. Started to talk again, but in my head I didn't want anything more. He took me out for dinner at a really fancy place, 2 days after my birthday. He told me everything he did for work and was extremely open with me. Told me I was the second person he's ever told about what he does, etc., which I felt grateful for. He is such a sweet guy and I had a great time. We talked about what everything would look like moving forward and he said he had no expectations, and wanted to support me in any way possible. I end up staying the night at his place and we had a heart-to-heart conversation about trust, etc. It went well. I felt more open toward him and it seemed like my concerns about the relationship were addressed, but I still didn't have his phone number. I still had it in the back of my mind and wondered if I could ask him about it again, although I never did. My friends started to get suspicious of my friend, and shared their concerns and I did a little of investigating. Given what he does for work, I know my safety was not a risk, but I could not understand why he refused to share his number. Last night, he returned home from out of town, and we hung out, both confessing our feelings for each other. However, I still felt disconnected from him for some reason. So this morning I continued investigating after not finding anything the first time and found out his name is not even close to what he told me. After some social media stalking he didn't lie about anything else, but he did lie about his name, which made feel very sick to my stomach. I can understand why he did it, considering what happened, but I felt very betrayed, especially since I've been calling him by this name during intimate moments, which feels so wrong. He even encouraged me to. I feel like there's not much left after what I uncovered, but given our connection I'm not sure. How do I bring this up to him, if at all? He doesn't know, I know yet.